Hi guys, before I start this video off, I would like to say that I do not mean any disrespect to any of the victims in this case. I simply got all of this information from the internet and just compiled it into one video. Well, in this case it's 3 videos, but I got all the information from the internet, the interrogation clips, the police reports, and I just put it all together. And I do not mean any disrespect to the victims or the victims' families. Thank you. Okay, I'm telling you guys, if you have any insecurities at all, this ring light is like, let me amplify it for you. Anyways, welcome back to my second video of the Shawn Grate videos. If you are just now tuning in, please go back to the first video so you know what the hell I'm talking about. We are talking about Shawn Grate, the serial killer from Marion, Ohio, who graduated River Valley in 1994. So in the first video, I talked a little bit about his ex-girlfriend Christina. They were together for 6 years. And I told you about how Christina went to Shawn's dad's house that he was remodeling. And I believe that was by Garfield Park. I'm not 100% sure. But she walks in and he's painting the dining room for the second time in 1 week. She doesn't question it a whole lot. But then he starts demanding she scrubs the kitchen spotless, and she described stuff that looked like rust that she was scrubbing up. And then Shawn asks her to marry her with this like mysterious ring. So to jump back in with this video, I'm going to talk about a woman named Dana from Louisiana. So Dana was 23 years old and she had 2 small children. She was traveling across the country selling magazines. She would go to Arizona, West Virginia, and unfortunately she wound up in Marion, Ohio. No matter where Dana was, she would always call her boyfriend David and their 2 small children every night. And then one night it just stops. The phone calls just stopped happening. Both her parents had passed away and her brother had passed away. So when she stopped making these phone calls, David wasn't sure where to turn to for a missing person report. Like I said, Dana was going all around America. So do you do a missing persons report in your town or the last town that the person had been in? David was just clueless, so he was just hoping for the best that Dana found some rich millionaire and had ran away. He didn't expect her to run into a serial killer by the name of Shawn Grate. Dana sold magazines to Shawn's mother, and they never arrived. Shawn calls Dana complaining that his mother had been ripped off. So Dana comes to the scene, and Shawn says, well, maybe I want to buy magazines. Do you want to come back to my house where I have my wallet? Dana was earing towards the end of her shift, but she was like, one last sale. Yeah, sure. So she hops in Shawn's car, and they go back to the house that Shawn was remodeling. And Shawn was like, oh, you want to see my baseball card collection? And Dana was like, sure. And she was going through these baseball cards. She was like, yeah, these are really cool, Shawn, but do you want to order magazines or not? And then Shawn says, you're just trying to scam everybody, aren't you? And Dana's like, this is getting real weird. I'm getting out of here. And she tries to hit the door, but Shawn stops her and he starts strangling her. He said that he was strangling her until she wet herself, and he panicked. So he started stabbing her until she died. He drags her down into his basement. He then starts to clean up the mess, And when he's cleaning up the mess, Christina walks in. And that's when he tells Christina, like, oh, if you want to help me, go clean the kitchen. Being the good girlfriend that she is, she starts cleaning up the kitchen, and she starts asking questions, and Shawn gets physically abusive with her, and Christina can't find any knives. He took the ring off of Dana, used it to propose to his girlfriend, and then burns the rest of Dana's belongings in a bonfire that he had with his girlfriend and other friends of his. Nobody knew that there was a dead body in the basement. He blocked it off, so if somebody needed to go to the bathroom, they wouldn't just accidentally walk into the basement and see a dead 23-year-old woman in his cellar. After burning the evidence, Shawn wraps Dana up in a white sheet and dumps it on Victory Road. In 2007, a man collecting scrap metal stumbles across a human skull. He calls the police, and an anthropologist spent hours in the field looking for bones. They eventually were able to make a clay model that was posted on the Marion, Ohio website, asking for any clues on who this person could be. They had no leads on who she was until Shawn confessed to the murder in 2016, 10 years after it happened. And the worst part is thinking about how he couldn't even remember her name. He would call her Diane or Diana, and then he was like, it could be Dana. And then he was like, it's somebody that was selling magazines. Eventually they were able to kind of leap from one way to another, and they ended up being able to track down Dana Lowrey and got DNA evidence from her kids to confirm it was her. Between 2006 and 2016, Shawn was constantly getting in trouble. He could not stop getting in trouble. And it's ridiculous to me. He got shoplifting charges. He got criminal mischief because he wrote cheese on somebody's window. And like when I read that, I was like, what the heck? Like a shopping list? But then I was like, oh, okay, he wrote cheese as in like, say cheese, I'm gonna take your picture type thing. I don't know why I was thinking it was like a shopping list. But he continued to get into trouble, and he just kept getting put on probation. But he was actually also out there murdering people and not getting in trouble. It's insane because he was dancing with the devil in front of everybody, and you're just like, oh, Shawn. So in 2015 was his second victim. Rebekka Lacy was 31 years old when she went missing on February 6, 2015. And then March 16th, 2015, her body was discovered by a gas employee who was like checking valves or something. He found her behind a big tree in Ashland County. Rebekka enjoyed camping, fishing, spending time with her kids. She did struggle with drug abuse, and this is where she met Shawn. It was reported that she met Shawn because they both were prostituting themselves in the Mansfield area. Her death was ruled an accidental overdose and then a body dump by police. But in 2016, Shawn confessed to strangling her and then dumping her body in the woods. Unfortunately, Rebekka's family doesn't believe Shawn's confession at all. They still believe that it was an accidental overdose and that somebody dumped her body. They quoted as saying that Shawn could never do that. June 2016, Candace Cunningham was Shawn's third victim. Candace was a mother of 2 small children, and in 2009, those children were removed from the home because of Candace's drug abuse. Candace was trying to get on the right track, and she would tell her parents about her perfect boyfriend, Shawn, how she loved him so much, how they were going to get out of here. They were going to go to North Carolina. and the relationship was actually very, very toxic. I have a screenshot right here of just something very chilling to me. It's a status saying that they broke up, but they are getting back together because she loves him. 3 months after this status was made, Shawn strangled her to death. Candace woke up by Shawn in the middle of the night because Shawn wanted her to roll cigarettes for her, and she was like, no, like, what on earth? You're not waking me up to roll your cigarettes. Roll your own cigarettes. And then she threw the bag of tobacco at her. Shawn was infuriated and strangled her to death. They had recently gotten evicted out of the house that they were staying in, and Shawn took her dead body back to that house, put it a little bit behind the house, and then set the house on fire. Candace was never reported missing because her family thought that they had moved to North Carolina together. Elizabeth Griffith had paranoid schizophrenia. She was described as extremely friendly. She always wanted to make people laugh. She was always walking around the community. She frequented the Kroc Center where she met Shawn Grate on August 16th, 2016. She asked Shawn if he wanted to come over and play Yahtzee, and Shawn agreed. They played Yahtzee, and then he left and he came back to his house. Well, kind of his house. He was a squatter. But he went back to his place. After Shawn left, Elizabeth went to Walmart, and she went shopping, and then she left, and she called Shawn again. And this is about 10, 11 o'clock at night, and she was like, hey, do you want to play Yahtzee again? Shawn was like, sure, yeah, come over and play Yahtzee. When Elizabeth gets there, she starts talking about this woman that I'm going to refer to as Jane Doe. She's talking about Jane Doe, and she's kind of talking a little bit of smack. Shawn was not thrilled about this. He told her, knock it off. Don't talk about her like that. Elizabeth starts yelling, and she jumps on Shawn's back, and she was saying that she wanted to kill herself. Again, she had some mental health problems. It was reported that she would call the suicide hotline about every other day, if not every day. So Shawn starts strangling her, and then he stops and he's like, do you really want to die? And she's like, what's wrong with you? Like, people say that every day. They don't expect to get strangled. So she's confused, infuriated. She just wants out of there. Like, this guy is, wacky. She's trying to get out, and Shawn states that he would risk his life for Jane Doe, and then starts strangling Elizabeth again until she soils herself. He then puts her in a closet and takes her keys, goes to her apartment, steals just toiletries like paper towels, deodorant, shampoo, conditioner, body wash, and eventually the body is starting to smell. Shawn has the audacity to complain that the smell of the decaying body was getting into his clothes and it was too hard to get out. Poor Shawn. He pries her mouth open with this stick with a condom on the end of it, which I think he was using for more than just prying open Elizabeth's mouth. This is such a weird contraption. So he pries open her mouth so flies can get in there to eat her, and then he tapes up the door with duct tape, as you can see here. And there's just maggots crawling all over the place. Stacy Stanley had been drug-free for 6 months. She had recently moved to the Ashland area for a fresh start. But she was still really close with her family, and she would call them every day to make sure she's doing good, that she's still drug-free, and she was really, really trying to get her life together for her grandbabies. She gets a flat tire on September 8th, 2016, around 10:45 p.m., and she's calling her son. When Shawn pulls up and he sees that she has a flat tire. So he's like, hey, can I help out? She's like, yeah, sure. Somebody was already on the way with a jack to help. So this other person comes, and she's like, oh no, this really nice guy is helping me, and she's talking to them, kind of catching up. I'm sure this person, made some type of drive to get to her because she's new to the area, and this is somebody she knew. For whatever reason, this makes Shawn jealous. He's jealous of somebody he just met because he helped her with a tire. So Stacy goes inside the BP, gets him a coffee, and he says, well, do you want to come back to my place? So she says yeah, and they're hanging out, and then Shawn tries to put a move on her. She says, like, no. What he said. She said no, and Shawn gets really angry and says, oh, but I'm sure you give it up to your sugar daddy that came with the jack. And she's like, no, like, it's just a family friend. Don't know what you're talking about. But Shawn gets extremely furious, and he rapes Stacy. And Stacy maces him, sprays him with pepper spray. And Shawn starts strangling her. He strangles her until she dies. Then he takes her into the basement of the abandoned house that he was squatting in and throws rubbish on top of her. Just buries her and then forgets about her. He then steals $43 out of her purse and takes her car and drives it around the block and just parks it and abandons it. The family was really worried that Stacy had relapsed, and they went to the police, but the police were no help at all. The family was making flyers, trying to get the news to report on it, but they were not getting any help at all. It was solely upon Stacy's family to get her face and name out there. The family even went so far as to asking the police to check the abandoned houses, which the police did not. On September 13th, 2016, 911 receives a phone call by somebody that I'm going to refer to as Jane Doe. This is only 2 weeks, not even 2 weeks, since Stacy Stanley has been strangled and put in the basement. I watched the testimony of Jane Doe, and she is the most purest soul on this earth. She is the sweetest lady. And I wanted to talk about the 911 phone call too. I will link it in this video. The operator is just not good in this 911 call. Jane is saying that she is tied up in bed next to the person that handcuffs her, and 911 is like, well, just leave. Get out of here. Like, if she could do that, she would.
Just your emergency. Where's the street margin at? What's the problem? I've been abducted. Who abducted you? Shawn Grate. You said John Green? Shawn Grate. Where's she at now? Asleep. Where's she sleeping at? In the bedroom. And his name is Shawn Grate? Yes. Like Grate? Yes. Does he have a weapon? He's got a taser. Is there any way you can get out of the building? I don't know without waking him, and I'm scared. Is there a bathroom in the house? Well, his bedroom is closed, and he made it so it would make noise. But if you told him you had to go to the bathroom, he would do something to you? Yeah, because he had me tied up. So are you tied up now? Well, yeah, but I kind of freed myself. Is he in the same room with you? Yeah, on the way. We have officers we're sending. Do you need an ambulance? Are you bleeding from anywhere? Not anymore. Where were you bleeding from? We don't have to talk if you don't need to, okay? Oh, shit. there a padlock on the bedroom door, or is it just a regular lock?
No, I don't even know if it's locked. I have a knob, so.
Can you get up and see if you can get out?
I'm afraid of waking him. If I knew the couch were right there, I would do it. I don't even know if it opens, how it opens.
Is there a window around there you can look out?
Yeah, but the floor squeaks and it's right by his head.
Are you laying down?
No, I'm standing right by the bedroom door.
And you can't open it?
What?
Can you open it?
I'm afraid without making noise.
Is the door to the house open?
I don't know, probably.
If you think you can get out, you need to get out. Can you unlock the door at all?
Hurry up, get out here. Where is he?
Bedroom sleeping.
Still sleeping?
Yeah.
Okay, they have her.
He's not on her arms.
He's not on him?
Yeah.
Right. You need to go. Stay there.
Jane and Shawn met at the Croc Center that Elizabeth also frequent, and they would play tennis together. They would go on these walks together, but Jane is very, very religious. Jane would not let Shawn inside her apartment, and she would not even give Shawn her phone number. She told Shawn that she felt like he was just an older brother to her, but Shawn just wasn't having it. He was very persistent that he wanted to be with Jane. On September 11th, 2016, Shawn told Jane to come look at this bag of clothes that his sister had given to him to see if she wanted any. So Jane goes over there, she looks at the bag, and she says, oh, that's nice. Yeah, I'll take them. And she sits down and she starts reading some Bible verses with Shawn because she said that, "Me think of you, I thought you could really benefit by hearing about it." So she starts to read it, and Shawn takes the book out of her hands. She looks really confused, and he says, well, you're not going anywhere. She's like, well, what do you mean I'm not going anywhere? And she gets up and she kind of shoves Shawn a little bit, like, get away from me, I'm leaving. Shawn then attacks Jane, and he ties her wrists and her feet to a mattress and begins to rape her. And he records every beating, every sexual assault. He continues to beat and rape Jane for the next 2 days, and he shoves muscle relaxers down her throat and tells her it's to take the edge off. The first night, Jane reports that Shawn did not sleep. He stayed up pacing back and forth all night. But by the second night, exhaustion had really hit Shawn hard, and he ended up falling asleep naked in bed beside Jane's naked body. Jane was able to get one of her wrists free, and she heard Shawn's alarm going off. When she goes to reach for this alarm, she ends up grabbing a taser. And she's, pretty nervous, like, I'm not gonna reach over there again. I don't want to risk waking him up and me getting beat again or raped again. But eventually she weasels her way out of bed, goes around the bed, picks up the phone, and then goes back to the bed and lays down next to Shawn and calls 911. It's my opinion. I have never been a 911 operator, so I don't know what protocol is. But the way she's just telling Jane to just get up and leave is just, and she kind of like has an attitude with it too, and I don't know. I'm not a fan of that lady. But she gets out of the house and she is naked, and the police are barging in and they're getting Shawn, and they take her to the bathroom and they get her dressed, and they finally have an arrest for Shawn Grate for kidnapping.
smash that subscribe button.